Listen up. If you thought the 50 Cent and Rick Ross war was cooling down, pull up a chair, because what leaked this week is the loudest, filthiest, most humiliating public meltdown a grown man with $1 billion resume has ever put on camera. And I have the paper trail to prove Rosie didn't just lose the round. He handed 50 Cent a loaded weapon and asked him to pull the trigger on live television. Y'all, I ran the tape back 3 times, and I am telling you right now, Rick Ross opened his own mouth, said the words, "I'm trying to go viral this week," and then made 50 Cent trend for free while his own album was choking in the charts. And that is only half the story, because buried under this feud is a receipt so ugly, so cold, so career-defining that when 50 Cent finally said it out loud, the entire Power fan base went silent. Courtney Kemp. Ghost. The murder that didn't have to happen. Stay with me, because before we get out of here, I'm going to ask you one question, and I want your verdict in the comments. Did Courtney Kemp kill Ghost out of jealousy? And did Rick Ross just accidentally hand 50 Cent the biggest algorithmic win of the year? Sit down. Let's get into it. Now let me stretch this out for you, because you cannot understand this week without understanding the pattern, and the pattern with 50 Cent is always the same. 50 Cent doesn't chase virality. 50 Cent architects it. He wrote the book on it, literally, 48 Laws of Power, 50th Law. The entire strategy is public. And what you are watching this week is Rick Ross, a 50-year-old man with a Wingstop empire and a car collection and a fresh album called Set in Stone, walking on camera and announcing his content plan out loud. I'm trying to go viral this week. Y'all. You do not announce the play. You run the play. The second Rick Ross said those 5 words, 50 Cent didn't even have to type. The algorithm did the work for him. And then Rosie went further. He didn't just call out 50 Cent. He dragged Eminem. He dragged Tupac. He dragged the entire concept of loyalty between black men and black women into a race-baiting monologue that made no sense to anybody who was actually paying attention. He said 50 Cent is loyal to the white man instead of the black woman. He called out Courtney Kemp. He called out the sneakers. He called out the power universe. He called out Good Morning America. Rick Ross swung at every branch on the tree and forgot the tree was 50 cents. Every branch he shook money out of Curtis Jackson's pocket. Every insult became a search term. Every accusation became a click. And the worst part, the part that makes this whole thing look like a strategic massacre, is that Rick Ross's album Set in Stone is projected to move under 26,000 units first week. 26,000. On a 20-plus feature album. With Drake rumors, with Meek rumors, with the entire Maybach roster on board. 26,000. That is not a rollout. That is a receipt. Now hold on. Because before you tell me I'm being too hard on Rosie, let me put the sound on for you. Let me play you back exactly what Rick Ross said, in his own voice, in his own words, on his own camera. He looks into the lens and he tells the world, "I'm trying to go viral this week." He then accuses 50 Cent of blaming a black woman, Courtney Kemp, for being kicked off the power shows. He tells 50 Cent to be loyal to the black woman the way you are to Eminem. He mocks the G-Unit sneakers relaunch. He mocks 50 Cent for wanting to release new music with Eminem and a posthumous Tupac verse. He literally tells Curtis Jackson, and I quote as closely as decency allows, "Pac has been dead 30 years, let the man rest in peace." And then, in the same breath, this 50-year-old mogul, the self-declared biggest boss you've seen thus far, says he wants to hear a Tony Yayo Lloyd Banks remix. Y'all, the biggest boss is doing chatty patty numbers this week. That is not a diss track. That is a diary entry. But here is where the whole game flips, and this is the part nobody is talking about. While Rick Ross was busy handing 50 Cent free algorithmic gasoline, 50 Cent was busy dropping the loudest bomb the power universe has ever heard. He sat down for a GQ interview. He looked into the camera. And he said the words out loud that every single power fan on this planet has been whispering in the group chat for years. Courtney Kemp wanted to kill Ghost. Not because it was the right creative call. Not because the story demanded it. But because, according to 50, the woman who wrote the show could not stand that the show had become a 50 Cent show. And when a writer decides your character has to die because your face is bigger than her name in the trailer, that is not writing. That is warfare. Let me stretch this out even further. 50 Cent says that as early as season 3, Courtney Kemp had already sharpened the knife for Ghost. She wanted Omari Hardwick's character dead where Cannon died. She wanted the show's centerpiece removed from the board because, in her mind, the show was hers, the writing was hers, the credit was hers, and the leverage that Omari and 50 Cent were pulling from the Good Morning America press runs was eating her lunch. 50 Cent says he pushed back. Hard. He says he was being paid $17,000 an episode while executive producing, while music supervising, while writing the theme, while running the promotion. He says he took a pay cut to keep Ghost breathing. He says he wasn't even accepted on Good Morning America until season 3, at which point he had already built the show into a monster. And then, right when the audience had learned to love Ghost, right when the algorithm was pumping power into every living room in America, according to 50, Courtney Kemp turned the pen into a weapon and executed the character anyway. Now hold up. Because I know some of y'all are going to say, Miss, that's 50 Cent's version. Courtney Kemp is a black woman, and you know how they do black women in this industry. Fair. Absolutely fair. Two things can be true at the exact same time. So let me play you Courtney Kemp's version on her own record, in her own words. Courtney Kemp says she left the Power universe because COVID turned 3 simultaneous productions into what she called air traffic control. She said the job stopped being writing. It stopped being creating. It became budgets, set builds, protocol meetings, health department calls, pressure, pressure, pressure. She said, and I want you to hear this clean, I just want to make stuff up. I'm a writer. She took the higher road. She did not say 50 Cent's name. She did not clap back. She moved to Netflix. She kept it graceful. Which, honestly, foul, petty, loud, is a masterclass in never wrestling with a pig, because 50 Cent will always drag you into the mud. But listen, here is the thing that has me pacing in my kitchen. If 50 Cent is telling the truth, and the receipts he's dropping in this GQ interview line up with what Omari Hardwick has been hinting at for years, then the entire Power universe as we know it, Ghost's death, Cannon Stark's death, the fractured spin-offs, the way Raising Cannon just wrapped, the way Force is dragging Tommy back to New York with Tarek, all of it, was shaped by one woman's ego colliding with one rapper's stardom in a writer's room. That is not fiction. That is Michael Jordan versus Jerry Krause. That is the Bulls dynasty getting broken up because a general manager could not stand being smaller than the players. That is exactly the thing 50 Cent named in the interview, and once you hear it that way, you cannot unhear it. Ghost didn't die because the story needed him to die. Ghost died because a pen got petty. Now here is where I need y'all to stay with me, because this next receipt is the one that changes everything. Rick Ross this week, the same week 50 Cent is dropping this GQ nuclear warhead on the Power Writers' Room, Rick Ross decides to open his mouth and defend Courtney Kemp. Rick Ross, a man who has not written a hit television show, a man who is not in the algorithm, a man whose album just did 26,000 units, decides that his contribution to the week's discourse is going to be to lecture 50 Cent about loyalty to black women. Y'all, the optics on this are catastrophic. Because now, whether Rosui meant to or not, he has aligned himself with a story that 50 Cent is publicly disputing with receipts, dates, dollar figures, and pay cut math. He picked a side, and he picked it on the losing week. And meanwhile, 50 Cent is not even breaking a sweat. 50 Cent is on television. Multiple shows. He's got Fight Lane in the pipeline. He's got the Coca-Cola bag. He rebranded himself from a rapper to a mogul to a studio head to a showrunner to a producer to a distributor, and every single one of those pivots printed money. This is a man who did Robert De Niro movies. This is a man who ran Redbox like a currency. This is a man whose G-Unit sneaker relaunch, the same sneaker Rick Ross tried to clown, is going to move quietly and cash quietly while Rosie's album is trying to explain why the projected first week is embarrassing. Rick Ross wanted to trend. He trended. He just trended attached to a joke. Now, let me get honest with y'all for a second. I am a Power girl. I have been in the Power universe since season 1. I know the writer's room. I have watched every Raising Cannon finale. I know exactly which fight scene 50 Cent is talking about when he brings up the moment Ghost and Cannon brawled and Cannon disappeared into the fire and re-emerged in DC with Jukebox. I know Lena Waithe's fingerprints. I know the theme music. I know the pacing. So when 50 Cent walks on camera and says Ghost was killed off because a writer's ego outgrew the actor's star power, I don't process that as gossip. I process that as grief. Because I lost characters I loved. We all did. Ghost didn't have to die. Cannon didn't have to die. Tommy didn't have to run to Chicago. Tarek didn't have to run to Force. The power universe cracked because two egos couldn't fit in one writer's room, and now we're watching Rick Ross wave that same broken universe around like a talking point. Here is where it gets darker. Because 50 Cent, being 50 Cent, did not just drop the Courtney Kemp receipt in isolation. He weaponized it. He timed it. He watched Rick Ross announce, "I'm trying to go viral this week," and then he served Rosie a version of the story where Rosie is defending the villain of the Power fandom. Do you understand what that means? Every Power fan who watches the GQ clip and then watches the Rick Ross rant walks away thinking, Rosie is on the wrong side of the biggest television show of the decade. That is not a diss. That is career damage. That is search engine damage. That is algorithm damage. That is the exact type of quiet, structural, permanent damage 50 Cent has been inflicting on his enemies for 25 years, and Rick Ross walked into it holding a microphone and a set in stone track list. Now look, I want to be fair. Because I don't want to sit here and pretend Courtney Kemp is some cartoon villain. Two things can be true. Yes, 50 Cent is an executive producer. Yes, executive producers carry weight. Yes, when a writer builds an empire, and the face of the empire keeps eating the writer's shine, resentment is human. I have seen it happen with Kevin McCall and Chris Brown. I have seen it happen with Carrie Hilson and the songs she penned for other artists. It is a real phenomenon. A writer builds the vehicle, an artist drives the vehicle, and the writer watches the crowd cheer for the driver. That is a wound. I get it. But you do not solve that wound by taking the pen and killing the driver. You solve it by writing yourself into the next chapter. You solve it by building your own vehicle. Which, to Courtney Kemp's credit, is exactly what she is doing at Netflix right now. She left the traffic jam. She is making stuff up again. Good for her. But that does not erase the Power Universe casualty list. And that does not erase the fact that 50 Cent, at the exact moment his most famous character was being marched to the guillotine, according to him took a pay cut, absorbed a demotion in the credits hierarchy, and stayed in the fight because he believed the show was bigger than his check. Whether you love 50 Cent or hate him, that is a receipt with a date, a dollar figure, and a paper trail. And Rick Ross this week decided to argue with it using nothing but volume. Let me tell you what happens next, because I have watched this pattern too many times. 50 Cent does not respond immediately. He lets Rick Ross keep talking. He lets the numbers keep coming in on set in stone. He lets the projected 26,000 units become the confirmed 26,000 units. He lets the Power fandom stew on the Courtney Kemp reveal. He lets the algorithm do its work. And then, usually within 72 hours of Rosie's next attempt at virality, 50 Cent drops one perfectly composed Instagram meme, one perfectly timed video clip, and the internet does the rest. That is not luck. That is a machine. Rick Ross is running a mouth. 50 Cent is running a system. Now y'all know I don't like to leave you without a verdict. So here it is. Rick Ross this week did not diss 50 Cent. Rick Ross this week promoted 50 Cent. He named the sneakers. He named the shows. He named Good Morning America. He named the Power Universe. He named Eminem. He named Tupac. He named Courtney Kemp on the exact same news cycle 50 Cent was preparing to blow the roof off the Courtney Kemp story. And when the smoke clears, set in stone will be a footnote, the GQ interview will be the headline, and the Power fandom will be rewatching season 1 asking themselves whether Ghost really had to go the way Ghost went. And here is my last question for y'all, because this is the loop I am not closing tonight, I am handing it to you. If Ghost didn't have to die, if Courtney Kemp really did aim the pen at Omari Hardwick because his star got too bright, and if 50 Cent really did take a pay cut to keep the show breathing, then who owes the Power universe an apology? Is it the writer? Is it the network? Is it the actors who stayed silent? Or is it, honestly, Rick Ross this week for reminding all of us that the biggest boss in the room right now is the man who never had to say he was trying to go viral because virality has been on payroll for him since 2003? Y'all tell me in the comments. Should Ghost come back? Because we never saw him in the casket. I said it. We never saw the body. Tommy is linking up with Tarek. Force is coming to New York. Raising Cannon just closed its door. The universe is wide open. And if the man who runs the algorithm decides Ghost walks back on screen next season, I promise you Rick Ross's 26,000 units will not be trending in the same sentence. Now before I let y'all go, one more receipt, because I would not be doing my job if I didn't circle back to the racial framing Rick Ross tried to slide into this whole mess. He said 50 Cent was loyal to the white man over the black woman. And I want to sit with that for a second, because that is a heavy accusation to fling in a week where your own numbers are the story. Rick Ross weaponized identity to distract from arithmetic. 26,000 units is arithmetic. A GQ cover story is arithmetic. A 5-network television empire is arithmetic. You do not answer arithmetic with slogans. You answer arithmetic with better arithmetic. And Rosie this week did not bring a calculator to the fight. He brought a bullhorn. And the bullhorn was pointed at his own foot. Meanwhile, 50 Cent kept it surgical, kept it strategic, kept it structural, and let Rick Ross write the obituary himself. Now let me stretch this one more layer, because there is a piece to this puzzle nobody in the comment sections has connected yet, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Ask yourself, why now? Why is 50 Cent dropping the Courtney Kemp confession in a GQ interview in August of 2026 specifically? Why not last year? Why not the year before? Why did he sit on this receipt for what has to be at minimum 3, maybe 4 full calendar cycles of press opportunities and pick this exact news cycle to blow the roof off it? I will tell you why. Because Power is coming to Netflix in November of 2026. That is not a rumor. That is a confirmed release date. And 50 Cent knows exactly what Netflix does to a legacy show when it lands on the platform. Netflix takes a show like Suits and turns it into the #1 streamed program in America a full decade after the finale aired. Netflix takes a show like Breaking Bad and redrops it into a whole new generation of viewers who never watched the original AMC run. Netflix is a resurrection engine. And 50 Cent is timing a controversy detonation to land right before the Power universe gets a second life algorithmic push to hundreds of millions of subscribers. This is not gossip. This is strategy. This is a man who studied Robert Greene, who wrote a book with Robert Greene, who literally lives inside the 48 Laws of Power framework, dropping a controversy grenade 6 weeks before the biggest relaunch of his career. Rick Ross walked into that grenade holding a match. Rosie didn't just pick the wrong week. He picked the wrong quarter. He picked the wrong platform migration. He picked a fight with a man who has already scheduled the news cycle 6 weeks ahead. And here is the other thing I need y'all to see. Because if you go back and watch the Rick Ross clip frame by frame, you will notice something almost tragic about the delivery. Rosie looks tired. Rosie looks like a man who knows the numbers are not going to save him this time. Rosie looks like a man who has watched 50 Cent print money on television for a decade and finally decided that if he cannot beat Curtis Jackson on the charts, he can at least beat him in the algorithm for 1 week. Except that plan requires you to be smarter than the algorithm. And the algorithm was built by 50 Cent's PR team. So the plan collapses the second you say it out loud. Which is exactly what Rick Ross did. He announced the plan out loud. And the second he did, every content creator on YouTube, including your girl right here, was handed a topic tree with 2 branches. Branch 1, cover the Rick Ross meltdown. Branch 2, cover the 50 Cent Courtney Kemp bombshell. And guess what, Rosie? Both branches lead back to Curtis. Both. Every commentary channel on this platform this week is monetizing off 50 Cent's name because you decided to be the co-star of his content cycle. That is not a diss. That is free labor. And here is the third layer, because I promised you receipts and I am going to keep giving them to you. The Set in Stone album is not just underperforming. It is underperforming in the exact same window that Cardi B, Playboy Cardi, and a handful of other legacy turnover artists are also releasing projects. So the streaming pool is diluted. The attention economy is fragmented. And Rosie's 26,000 units are not just 26,000 units in a vacuum, they are 26,000 units against a room where the smallest first-week competitor is still moving more than double his number. That is not a bad week. That is a positioning failure. And when a legacy artist has a positioning failure, the smart move is to disappear for a quarter, retool, and re-emerge with a cinematic rollout. The dumb move is to record a rant video attacking a man who owns 5 television shows, a G-Unit sneaker relaunch, a Coca-Cola bag, and a GQ cover in the same news cycle. Rick Ross picked the dumb move. And now the dumb move is the story. So here is where I land, y'all. This week was not a 50 Cent versus Rick Ross week. This week was a 50 Cent versus Rick Ross versus Courtney Kemp versus the Power fandom versus the Netflix migration versus the entire attention economy week. And 50 Cent walked out of it holding every single trophy. Rick Ross walked out of it holding a 26,000 unit album and a rant that made him the punchline. Courtney Kemp walked out of it having to explain to the Power fandom why Ghost is in a casket instead of on a Netflix billboard. And the Power fans, the ones who loved Ghost, who loved Cannon, who loved Tommy, who loved Tarek, who loved the entire cinematic universe, walked out of it wondering whether the show they grieved could have kept breathing if one writer and one producer had checked their egos at the door. That is the read. That is the record. That is the recap. If the vibe hits, punch the like button. If you're new around here, tap subscribe so you don't miss the next receipt. And if you think Courtney Kemp owes the Power fandom an explanation, drop the word ghost in the comments, because I am counting them, and I am pulling that thread on the next one. Foul. Petty. Loud. That is the state of the game this week. And your girl will see you on the next deep dive.